Assalamualaikum and good day, Yayasan Khazanah scholars. As a YK scholar selected from a competitive pool of talents in Malaysia, we believe in your leadership potential. We are confident that you will use the time with us to invest in building your knowledge about 21st century challenges that will confront you as leaders of the future. Climate threats, scarcity, technological disruptions, displacements due to wars, chemical warfare, and others. You've heard them all before. It is a known fact that the world we live in is deteriorating. There are many challenges on so many fronts. Some challenges, like climate change and biodiversity loss, for example, you may argue started a very long time ago. But there are also old challenges like poverty, for example, that has history of more than 1,000 years. While the specialists are working hard to solve these issues, we still do not have the solutions for many of these problems. The failure to act can make many of these crises irreversible and undermine the living conditions for future generations to come. Climate change affects all biological diversity, including us humans, and especially our ecosystem or habitat, our way of generating food, water, and shelter, and potentially lead to climate migration of people. Future wars may no longer be about oil, but food and access to water supply. The failure to address poverty can widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots, which can lead to social injustice being acted on, potentially leading to criminal activities. Competition for land within cities to build housing for the people, which leads to so many who cannot afford them, are resulting in squatters and slums. The inability to innovate and develop technologies will stunt economies and keep many people in low-paying jobs at a time when the cost of living is going up. Pandemics caused by zoonotic diseases will emerge again and in the future, and as we intrude into the habitat of animals and fail to maintain high hygiene standards. The phrase "ignorance is bliss" no longer applies here. Do we want to live in a modern society yet remain fearful of pandemics and threats to our health? Do we want to have prosperity for ourselves but fear that we may be robbed by those left out by development? Do we want pollution to overwhelm us and reduce the quality of our lives in spite of us living in modern areas with fancy architecture? Do we want to fear that we may not have enough to eat, not because we are poor, but because food production has declined? Do we want to suffer like the proverbial frog in a frying pan because of our indifference and inaction? Let's not be part of the problem, but let's become a part of the solution. One framework for making the world a better place is through the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDG, or the UN SDG for short. And there are 17 SDGs, which was globally adopted in September 2015, including in Malaysia, set to be achieved by 2030. As you may know, there are 169 targets and 230 indicators amongst the 17 SDGs. The UN SDG is a comprehensive global commitment towards a more sustainable, resilient, and inclusive development, addressing the key major issues impacting the world today, including poverty, biodiversity loss, climate change, and social justice. In addition to ratifying the UN SDG, Malaysia is also a signatory of the Paris Agreement, of which Malaysia has committed to a reduction of greenhouse gases by 45% by 2030. This consists of 35% on unconditional basis and 10% conditional basis upon receipt of international climate finance, technology transfer, and capacity building from developed countries. This will look at Malaysia. The Paris Agreement will look at Malaysia delivering on Goal 13 from the UN SDG goals. Two key instruments or documents that scholars, all of you, must peruse to be able to be ambassadors of sustainability are the Paris Agreement and the UN SDG. At present, Yayasan Hasanah, as the foundation of Khazanah National, contributes to 15 out of the 17 SDGs in working with our partners for solutions that empower communities, encourage social inclusivity, and improve the environment. The idea of changing the world can be very overwhelming. It's not easy, and it's understandable if someone thinks, I'm only one person, what difference can I make? We understand that achieving all these goals will be challenging. That's why we wish to see our scholars contribute to the global effort to make the world a better place. One person or one organization alone cannot change the world, but when everyone contributes a little, the collective effort is how we will be able to change the world. Helen Keller once said, I'm only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And just because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. Think about that. Let's become part of the force that will generate the momentum to improve the world and create a better future for ourselves and our society. We need transformative leaders, people like yourselves who are willing to challenge the status quo, who are willing to adopt a new way of working to solve challenges of the future. For YK scholars, being actively involved, beyond being actively involved, you need to be future leaders who are informed, equipped, and knowledgeable about sustainability issues. And as mentioned earlier, the two key documents that you should look at is one, the Paris Agreement, and do look up and read up about the UN SDG to be better equipped as future leaders of sustainability for the country. You need to use your time as a YK scholar to invest in building knowledge about 21st century challenges that will confront you as leaders of the future. Like we mentioned earlier, climate threats, scarcity, technological disruptions, chemical warfare, displacements due to war, and others. What can you do? There are three ways the scholars can contribute. Firstly, through your personal involvement in community work. I'm sure many of you are already involved in one way or another in doing something that you are passionate about. There are many established NGOs or newly started projects out there. We highly encourage you to volunteer your time at local organizations and contribute according to your personal capacity. It will give you a better understanding of what the challenges are on the ground. Never underestimate the power of simple help, like tutoring someone or helping out in a fundraiser event. Your tiny help might be the exact catalyst needed in making an impact. The second way scholars can contribute is through research. Creating change is not easy. It involves changing the status quo, dismantling existing power structures, and developing new practices. Yayasan Khazanah scholars receive the best educational opportunities, and in fact, many of you aim to pursue further education through your masters and your PhDs. It is important for you to make good use of your knowledge and skills by conducting relevant research to provide evidence-based solutions, create understanding, and advocate innovative solutions for the problems to solve global issues. The third way for our scholars to contribute is continual support after graduation as a YK alumni. Your efforts in making the world better should not stop just because you've graduated from your studies or you're no longer receiving a scholarship from Yayasan Khazanah. As YK alumni and as future leaders of the country and the world, you can also use your influence to get your organizations that you'll be working with to also contribute towards the 17 SDG goals. We will help nurture your leadership competencies. The networking you develop with other scholars will also help you in your community work moving forward after graduating. We hope that through the Yayasan Khazanah Premier Scholarship Program, the seed of doing good will be planted in each and every one of you. It will be our lifelong mission together to make the world a better place. Thank you, and I wish you all the best.